Greetings and welcome to the student. In the previous few videos, we learned how to calculate the sum of a particular series using the while loop. So there, what we used to do is we used to identify the last term of that series, and as the while loop used to get executed, we used to update the terms of that series. And the moment the last term has gotten surpassed, the while loop used to get stop. It used to just the condition became false and the loop did not get executed anymore. However, if you remember in the past those questions, we knew that okay, we have to find the sum of these many terms. So we knew the number of terms that we needed to add, right? So even if we didn't know the last term, we knew how many terms we have to add up, right? So in such cases, it is always good to know how to count the number of times this particular loop is supposed to run. So once we are able to count that, okay, this loop has ran 10 times so far, so we'll be able to stop the loop as soon as the number of times we wish the loop to run has ran, right? So for example, if we want the loop to run 20 times, so the moment it moves ahead of 20, more than 20 iterations take place, we just stop the loop. And that could be the stopping condition for us. But for that, it is very important that the count, the we should know how many iterations are taking place. So counting the number of iterations is very important, right? Counting the number of iterations is very important. Okay. So the basic syntax of while loop is that there is while, there's some condition, there is some statement that gets executed, and once the statement is executed, one iteration is complete. And then it goes back to the third line. It checks if the condition is still valid, if it's still satisfied, and if it is, then it goes and computes statement again. Otherwise, it just leaves the while loop and goes ahead. Right? So as many times the condition is true, the statement would get executed. As simple as that. So we know by logic that before while, as in line 2, no iteration has taken place. Before the while command, no iteration has taken place. So there we could just say that, okay, we define some variable count and we put that equal to 0, right? And now inside while, once the statement is executed, that means one iteration is complete, right? So we could just update the variable count by adding 1 to it, all right? By adding 1 to it. So what will happen? It would execute the statement and then it would say, okay, this statement got executed. Now the count is increased by 1. So one iteration has taken place. Then it would go back, check the condition. If it is valid, if it is true, then would go to statement executed and then again increase the value of count by 1. So that way, the number of times the statement is getting executed, this particular variable would get incremented by 1. And that way it just counts the number of iterations. All right. So for now, let me just say that, okay, I'll just put the count thing to the stopping condition as that count has to be less than or equal to 10. And the statement is just updating the variable count. So it will just give me 10 as the output. All right. So not even 10 as the output. It would just uh, say that, okay, count is equal to 10. So if I execute this, if I run this, so it has gotten run. And now if I type count, so count is 11. So that means That happened because this iteration, whatever has been executed, 11 times it has been executed. That's because when count was 0, one iteration took place. When count was 1, the second iteration took place. When count was 2, third iteration took place. And so on. When count was 10, so 11 iterations, right? So that's why it has counted the number of iterations. So that's what the variable count does, right? So this video was just to show you how can we count the number of iterations. But this is actually very useful in a lot of Python programs that you'll be writing. So we'll use the same logic of counting the number of iterations to computing sum of a certain series, just like we did in the previous few videos. But there, the logic that we used was that we knew the last term and the stopping condition was based on the last term. However, now the stopping condition that would be used, it would be based on the number of terms for which the sum has to be computed. So for that, we'll need to count the number of items. So that would be a more general code, and you would be able to implement that code for a wider uh, spectrum of problems. And I'll explain why that would happen. So that would I'll discuss with you in the next video. But so far, this is how you count the number of items. Thank you.